The stars sparkled in the sky that night, but on the ground, there was chaos. In one of the city's wealthiest neighborhoods, a grand mansion suddenly caught fire. It was late at night, and most people were fast asleep when a loud explosion shattered the silence. Within minutes, flames soared into the sky. Neighbors rushed out of their homes. Some pulled out their phones to record, others called 911, but no one dared to approach the house, now completely engulfed in flames. And then, out of the shadows, a figure ran toward the fire. Thin. Barefoot. Face smudged with soot. A torn hoodie clinging to her like a second skin. People had seen her before, sitting quietly behind restaurants waiting for leftover food, or sleeping near dumpsters, invisible to the world. Her name was Mira. A homeless girl no one really noticed. But that night, she became a hero. Mira had lived on the streets for the past 2 years. Orphaned as a child, she was passed from relative to relative until even her aunt said, "I can't take care of you anymore." From that point on, Mira wandered from shelters to sidewalks. She dropped out of school. She endured hunger, heat, cold, and loneliness. But despite everything, her heart had never hardened. Her eyes still held a softness that the world hadn't stolen. She often prayed, not for herself, but for others. That night, as she warmed her hands behind a closed bakery where she usually slept, she heard a child's scream pierce the quiet. Something about it made her heart drop. She leapt to her feet and ran toward the sound. At the end of the street, a huge mansion was ablaze. Glass shattered. Smoke billowed from the roof. And in an upstairs window, a small boy, no more than 5, stood crying, banging on the glass. "Somebody help him!" Mira yelled. But no one moved. "The fire too strong. Firefighters are on the way. We can't go in there." But Mira could. She sprinted to the mansion's side door, paused for just a moment, whispered a prayer under her breath, then kicked it open and plunged into the smoke. Inside, it felt like she had stepped into an oven. The heat was suffocating. Smoke burned her throat. She tied her scarf around her mouth and crouched low, trying to breathe through the dense air. "Kid? Where are you?" she shouted. A soft whimper came from upstairs. She raced up the creaking wooden steps. They groaned with every footstep, threatening to collapse. She turned left, flung open a door, and there he was. A tiny boy in the corner, clutching a stuffed bear, tears streaking down his ash-covered cheeks. "I'm Mira," she said gently. "I'm here to help." The boy nodded, too scared to speak. She scooped him up in her arms, grabbed a thick blanket off the bed, wrapped him tightly, and dashed toward the window. Crowds were gathered below. "Catch him," she screamed. A strong man stepped forward, arms outstretched. With trembling hands, Mira lowered the boy down inch by inch. Safe. But just as she turned to climb out, the floor gave way beneath her. 15 minutes later, firefighters pulled Mira from the rubble. Barely conscious. Her face blackened, arms burned, breathing faint. But alive. She woke up 2 days later in a hospital bed, surrounded by the hum of machines and the scent of antiseptic. A man sat at her bedside, shoulders hunched, eyes swollen from crying. "I'm Ethan Reed," he said softly. "You saved my son." Mira blinked at him, disoriented. "He's all I have," Ethan continued. "My wife passed away last year. I thought I'd lost him too." Mira lowered her eyes. "He was alone," she whispered. "Just like me." Ethan was silent, overwhelmed by the humility in her voice. He reached for her hand and said, "You didn't just save my son. You saved me." The world finds out. What happened next shocked everyone. Ethan Reed, tech billionaire and CEO of one of the biggest companies in the country, stood in front of news cameras and told the world about the homeless teenager who risked her life for his son. She didn't ask for anything. Not even a thank you, he said, his voice shaking. But she deserves everything. He paid all of her medical bills. Found her a home. Enrolled her in the best school in the city. And a few weeks later, he adopted her. The homeless girl no one saw was now Mira Reed. His son, Liam, now had a sister. One day, Liam looked at her and said, "You're not just my sister. You're my hero." Time passed. Mira excelled in school. She had safety, love, and family. But she didn't forget where she came from. She knew thousands of others were still sleeping on sidewalks, still going unnoticed. That thought never left her. So after graduating college, she started a non-profit called Second Flame, a foundation that built shelters for homeless youth and trained them in emergency response. Her mission, "The fire that once destroyed me, will now be my light to guide others." And she lived those words every day. Years later, a journalist asked her, "Weren't you afraid that night?" Mira smiled. "I was. But not for myself. I saw that boy crying in the window, and I remembered how many nights I cried alone, hoping someone would come for me. That night, I was someone's someone. And I would do it again." She paused, then added, "The world told me I was nothing. That I didn't matter. But kindness doesn't ask who you are, it asks what you can do. True kindness expects nothing in return." That night, Mira had no home, no security, no one to call family. But she had courage. And compassion. And that was enough to save a life. Today, thousands of children are safe because of her. Thousands of hearts are inspired because of her. And all of it began with one brave step into the fire. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who still believes in the power of kindness. Because sometimes, all it takes is one spark to light up the world.